right, let's go.
All right.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the ChatGTM podcast. This is Michael Beck reporting here live from the RFIS show here in San Diego, California on Coronado Island at beautiful Coronado Lowe's Hotel. RFIS, for those you don't know, is a restaurant, franchising, and innovation summit. I've said finance so many times when I did this today because it bleeds over from shows.
Yep.
I am here with author Craig Miller, the author of Bricks and Clicks. He was one of our keynote speakers here. He was talking a little bit about AI, how businesses work with it, and he's going to actually educate me before I ruin the message and make up my own assumptions of what I thought I heard. So first off, Craig, thank you for coming on. Thank you for spending some time with us.
My pleasure. And just co-author.
Co-author, that's right.
Co-author
That's right.
with Cliff Hudson.
And Cliff Hudson. And so for the audience that doesn't know, who's Cliff Hudson in this
Cliff
equation?
Hudson, former CEO of Sonic, for 25-year CEO, but really kind of led Sonic through decades of extraordinary expansion up through 2018 when the company was sold to Inspire.
And you and him went through, I guess it sounded a journey of transformation. You know, the world was changing. Yes. You went through the dot-com bubble, the advent of the internet, and then sounded like what you were talking about before is he was a futurist in some ways. He knew where, we were talking before about the great one, Wayne Gretzky saying where the puck is going. The puck is going. It sounded like he really had an affinity for that, right?
Absolutely. In the book we talk about this. The Sonic Drive-In, really one of the only drive-ins certainly on a national level, but most of all the other drive-ins, probably the 70s, 80s, and disappeared.
Yeah.
Despite that, Sonic exploded into a national icon, and so that largely led by Cliff's vision and leadership for that growth.
Beautiful. So Bricks and Clicks.
Yes.
Let's just firm it up. Who's the audience? Who'd you guys write it for? Who's it intended for? And what's the underlying lesson?
Yeah. The audience. The book was written. It's the core of it is a memoir, the story about Sonic, and how we brought Sonic in this last kind of level up into the digital age. 1950s brand continued to adapt and evolve through the decades. The next opportunity was really into the 21st century. Was it needed to be relevant in the digital age? What did that mean?
Yeah.
Cliff had the vision that technology would be the next opportunity, but our first conversation was just, Craig, don't know how we're going to get there. That's that's why I want to partner and bring you on. And
so you guys sat down. Probably there's a long ongoing collaboration. These things don't happen overnight, right? And you shared with the audience earlier today about why some brands make it and some don't, or there are cycles or there are patterns. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I started as a college. I came out as an engineer, computer engineer. Then went on to do my master's systems engineering, and interestingly enough, did my thesis in AI back in '85.
So everyone thinks we called it machine learning back then, right? Or was it even coined term yet?
The title of my textbook that I showed this morning was Introduction to Artificial Intelligence.
Okay.
Machine learning is part of that.
Yeah.
But I would never talk about that to a business executive. That was tech jargon. Now it's
Was it more like sci-fi at that point almost?
Well, to me it wasn't, but to C-suite it was.
Yeah.
And so, but now it's a boardroom mandate.
Yes.
It's fascinating. But I've been through these cycles before, and so in terms of kind of the evolution.com, if you look at companies, and there's really great comparisons. Look at why did Walmart survive? Kmart went away. Right, Target survived, Sears went away.
Sure.
So in retail, why is Chili's right now, just on the third year of double-digit growth?
Yeah.
But a lot of their competitors, are closing stores.
I definitely want to circle back to find out what your opinion on attribution is there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and the same thing. I work for Planet Fitness. I was CDO for Planet Fitness. And while Gold's Gym was around for twice as long, Planet Fitness exploded to 4 or 5 times this in membership.
Yeah.
So why is that? There's a theme there. And Sonic, all the other drive-ins went away. Sonic did not. It became a national icon. So there's themes in there.
Right.
And so I've spent my career really studying those and being part of it, learning from patterns of success and patterns of failures. And so the theme is really centered. It's really a mindset and a behavior in these companies. It's the ability, not transformations. You'll rarely ever hear them talk about transformations.
Sure.
Transformations are kind of one time. They are constantly adapting. Their culture, their organization, they're constantly adapting. And they all start with the same thing as their compass, and it's customer. If they start, there's no such thing as a crystal ball, but if they start with a customer, that's the best thing in terms of direction. It's a North Star. And so
it's almost like echolocation. The customer's constantly pinging you about what they want or need,
and it's changing. So we have a framework in the book. There are a number of things change, but 3 things change that companies have to keep their eye on. The customer. Customer preferences change. If you look at Gen X, different than Millennial, different than Gen Z.
Vastly.
The other thing is that not all customers are the same, and so we talk about segmentation. There are some customers, like in the case of Sonic, that are just evening snackers, and that's their patterns.
Right.
And there are some customers who just in the morning. Some customers come all day parts. So it's important to understand how customers and preferences, right? Because they'll steer you, and it's important to know that you have 4 or 5 maybe different behavior profiles. The winners are the brands that really start with that as number 1. 2, competitive landscape.
Sure.
That's constantly changing. So you always want to, if you're a leader, how do you continue to lead? If you see other brands coming in, I worked at the time for a private equity company that had Hollywood Video and the Blockbuster days, right? They were the biggest by far.
Yeah.
We all know where that went, right?
There's one left in Alaska.
Right. and so, but there's a theme to that.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so, competitive landscape, and the Sears was number 1. No one can touch Sears
for 100 years.
For 100 years, right?
Yeah.
And now they're gone. And so everyone talks about Amazon and the e-commerce, but here's a fact that many of your listeners may know. Even today, if you strip out the non-retail of Amazon, Walmart is still number 1 in retail, even larger than Amazon in terms of sales, just for retail.
Walmart's probably profitable.
Very profitable, but it's the same mindset, right?
Right.
And so then the third thing is technology.
Yeah.
And that's becoming quickly more and more important. It's critical. And so and now the technology is evolving faster and faster. And so most of the conversations when a board or a CEO reaches out to me, or executive, including Cliff, when he reached out to me the first time, they all recognize technology was becoming, and this is over the past 25, 30 years.
Yeah. Technology
is becoming a bigger part, more critical part of the growth strategy. We just don't know where to start, or are struggling getting, successful on where we want to go.
Right.
And so I said, okay, and they know that's my background. I've worked with dozens of top tier brands over the last 30 years, and so what I start with, the way we're going to start, we're not going to talk about the technology.
We're going to talk about the problem.
We're going to talk about the customer.
Okay.
We're going to talk about your customer. We're going to talk about your business model. We're going to talk about how do you drive sales and profit. No matter what industry, no matter what business, all businesses have at least 2 things in common at the top of how they measure performance: sales and profit.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about how do you drive sales and how do you drive profit. The second thing is they all have customers.
Yeah.
So let's understand your customer. And then as far as technology goes, and you know, businesses, we're in digital age. I would say started in the mid '70s, late '70s, with everyone had a PC on their desk, right, from mainframe to PC.
Yeah.
There are different eras. We went from PC, then we went to kind of network in the business, not internet yet, but just kind of connected network. Now you had, in the back room,
LAN.
You had WAN. Then in the '90s, the internet evolved with web. I'd say in kind of the 2000s that really took off after the .com. 2010 was mobile and social, and 2020, 21-ish is AI. We're in the fifth era of that, I would say. But all of that evolution, there's one thing in common, is that they all are basically more sophisticated ways of data. They're all built on data.
Yeah.
And synthesizing data. So I can come in and I'll usually look at who's your customer, how you drive, what's your operating model drives sales and profit, how do you drive sales and profit?
Yep.
And I look at what their data ecosystem looks like. That gives me a sense of our starting point. It also gives me a sense on, I would say, if there's one way I could describe what I focus on and what I've really specialized in is looking at businesses. And I kind of went from early in my career, software and an engineer, an architect, technical engineer and architect, to a business architect that can create or develop and execute strategies to unlock new top-line growth, bottom line profitability through the innovative use of data. That's what I do. So with Sonic, Cliff already had one of the few CEOs, if maybe one of two, that they told me about their vision that technology would play a bigger role, but they didn't start. They started with the customer. Right. His story started with the customer, and so I was so impressed. I said I really want to be part of his story, the story of Sonic. And so that's what started it, is how to take his vision, the Techno-Oval, and bring it to life to basically propel the brand to the next level. That's where it started.
So, question: knowing the restaurant community and also knowing the vendor community.
Yes.
Everybody's lining up with the panacea to solve all the problems they have. Let me tell you what I got. Let me tell you how I'm going to change your life, make it better. In volumes of outreaches and blowing up everybody's emails. There's a lot of noise out there.
Yeah.
Right? What's your advice to some of these brands that are being hit left, right, up, down, sideways about here's AI, here's the thing you need? Like, how do you help them, or what would your recommendation be to them to say, hey, slow down so we can go fast? How do where should they focus?
Yeah.
Who should they be listening to? What should they be looking for?
Yeah. So they need to, I would say, I've worked all three sides. I was a consultant. I had a consulting company that we grew from two, my partner and I, to 65 people. Then I went back and worked, in the corporation to work on the inside. It was really a defining moment for my career because as a consultant, I was the vendor who was selling in services.
Sure.
When I went back into corporate, influencing strategic changes and executing is much more challenging from the inside than the outside.
Why is that?
Because on the outside, you're paid to come in, and you're paid. Now they don't have to listen to you.
Sure. But you have a level of credibility coming in that you're the
level
expert.
Of credibility, but they're the ones who have to execute it.
Sure.
Right? And so you can give them your advice. You could even be part of the services that you offer, but they make the decision.
Right.
When you're on the inside and you have a performance plan that says, Craig, here's your objectives as a leader, as an executive, and that doesn't just require someone to listen to you. it requires bringing the organization, the culture along. And as a change agent, which is what I was often called at the time, almost everywhere I worked, they said, Craig, we completely agree with you, just like when I was a consultant.
Yeah.
This makes sense. And then that would follow with, we just don't have the culture for that. And so that got me really thinking about, well, what is culture? I mean, I know what it is intuitively, but it really boils down to values and beliefs. And if I'm going to succeed from within, it's not just about advising. It's not just about being hired by the hour to go code something up or build something.
And throwing it over the fence.
I have to influence the organization to make the change and execute.
Yeah.
Otherwise, as I said earlier today, those strategy decks collect dust, right?
Yeah.
Or I've spent money and I may have built it, but I can't get the business to embrace it. So now it's wasted. So you have to learn how to influence from within. And executing with all through the organization, get the board of directors, their role, the C team, your function. So I'll give you an example. I talked about it today.
Sure.
This is Sonic. So you had a CEO at the vision, and everyone was on board with me coming in, new CIO, and to a large extent, for the first 2 years, I had to stabilize what was their legacy, and then we were doing kind of proof of concept.
Was the organization in distress at that time, or was it like a stabilization?
It wasn't distressed though it became distressed. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
We got to a point where we were piloting and we had to expand it, and I needed marketing to now partner with me because I could put the technology in. But it really doesn't translate to value until if it's a marketing, till the marketing team, their processes, operation, right? I can go and put a POS or an inventory management labor scheduling tool, but if the crew and the operators don't embrace it, it's a lot of technology.
It's the cliche, IT project without operational buy-in is doomed to fail.
So you've got to get the second part of the equation is you've got to get whoever the technology is for, you got to get them to adapt their processes to leverage it. And there's a lot of creative ways to kind of do that, but you got to get them to buy it and own it.
Is it a stick or a carrot?
It's not a stick. It's not a stick.
Okay.
And it is a carrot, but they have to feel ownership of it.
Right.
So here's a great example of it completely changed the mode. Cliff was beginning to sense the distress in the organization. Between my team and the other functions. And so I shared, this is not uncommon when we get to this point, because they're feeling as though, hey, I don't know if I want to be accountable to this fully. My bonus, these are
CYA,
right?
Yeah.
And so I explained this natural progression. So Cliff went off. We met the following week, and he said, I read this Harvard business study. Have you ever heard of the messy middles? And I said, I haven't. And he goes, Craig, this article from Harvard Business describes what you described. Everyone wants to be like part of this, exciting, technology, vision, strategy at the beginning. And at the end, if it's really successful, everyone wants to be part of that success. But the middle is messy. No one wants to be part of the messiness.
It's almost like diffusion of innovation, right?
But it's natural.
Yeah.
And so that was in December when we had the conversation. Every year, February, we had a leadership offsite where leadership team got together for 3 days, to talk about our game plan for the year, get aligned around that, and so Cliff, realizing this was where we were in the organization, we themed that whole leadership offsite the messy middles, and it started with Cliff, the CEO, saying, "Listen, here's where we are. We're we need to progress beyond a tech project in Craig's team.
Yep.
And we all need to own this. We all need to be part of it. It will be messy. We will stub our toes on this. We'll have some failures. We can't keep failing.
Right.
But we have no choice. We have to replace the point of sale. And if we want to keep the momentum in this business through this 21st century and digital age, we have to. We have no choice. Now, it's messy. Let's talk about what we have to do.
Right.
And for you all to feel ownership of it. And within those 2 days, Cliff almost gave them permission to, it's going to be messy. We're going to have some issues. That's okay, but we're either going to win or lose together.
Sure.
And that tone changed, the whole vibe.
Would you call it bold leadership? I mean,
it is bold leadership.
We're boldly going, right?
We're boldly going, but it was an empathetic. I'm here. I'm going to support whatever you all need. Okay, if we, let's figure out a way where if it's not going right, let's raise it so we could all get together. If I recall, if we have to change kind of bonus structures, let's consider it, right?
Right.
But we haven't. And so he gave everyone permission to, okay, we're going to stub our toes. He got them all enthusiastic about what we were doing and that we were in this together, and he was there as CEO to support.
And was he selling the Golden Hill at the end? This is where we're going to take this to. This is what it's going to do for us.
100%.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah.
We actually he loved. It was terrific at branding. So this was 2000 when we got to that point. It was 2012ish, 11, 12ish, and then we had a year to do some market testing to really operationalize it. Now that all the functions were involved, and then we were going to formally announce it that we were going across the whole brand with franchisees.
Now you're a publicly traded company at
Yep.
this point. So how does that work with shareholders, the investor community?
So great question. You have to bring them along too.
Imagine.
And so here's about a year and a half into it. Cliff calls me to his office, and he said, we had our quarterly review. It was with analysts, our quarterly call, and they're really excited about the vision. They see us spending a lot of capital, but they're starting to ask big questions around when are we going to see an ROI?
Yeah, where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
Yeah.
And so, Craig, what should we tell them? How should we bring them along?
Yeah.
Right, and set their expectation. I said, well, Cliff. As you know, we had a lot of old technology, and I had to stabilize the base first before we could test some of the new stuff. I said, here's the way I would think about it. And you always start, how should we think about it? How should we communicate this? I said, Cliff, think about a 60-year-old house. We're now in the 21st century digital age, and we want to connect wireless TVs, wireless appliances. We want Wi-Fi in every room. We want to add new bathrooms and expand the house and expand the kitchen. And so when you do that, Cliff, in a 60-year-old house, the plumbing and wiring won't support any of that. You got to wire coax or wire, Wi-Fi.
Yep.
And Cat5 and I said, so here's the way I would think about it. It's a 60-year-old or whatever, 65-year-old house. We're about to kind of remodel it. We got to fix the plumbing.
You got to do some demoing
before. Right? It's not so much demoing.
Okay.
But we have to fix the plumbing.
Okay.
There's some underneath it.
Sure.
But we got to fix the plumbing before we could add all of these kind of enhanced capabilities.
Right.
And that became the theme that he used with the analysts, is that we're a 60-year-old, just like a 6-year-old house. You got to fix they got that, right? They got that.
That's marketing.
It
really is, right? Yeah.
It's also knowing how to kind of, how to influence and get people. So stakeholders, you had shareholders.
Yeah.
You had your board. You had the C-suite. you had your functions and your staff, you had your vendors, and you had your franchisees. So as I shared, earlier this morning, is you've got to bring all of them along, right? And that's the most. That is why 75% of projects fail, because that is challenging. But if you do not, right, you'll never move forward. So that became our focus. So that's how we handle it. And then we set the expectation is you can't just have 2 or 3 years of these big expensive projects with no payback.
Right.
So we would have milestones that we would show value, that would build confidence.
So you're getting summits here, and each summit you set up a new base camp, you go to the next summit.
It was staged.
Okay.
And so we had to at least show the street, all stakeholders.
Sure.
The board, the street, our franchisees.
Yeah.
Every step of the way, we were seeing incremental value. And so you build confidence and trust, advocacy.
Get your wins. Get your wins.
Absolutely.
Get your wins.
And that's the journey. So when I talk about that, Craig, well, that's not technology. I said, no, it's not. But
the underpinnings.
The technology is the easy piece.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I think I have answered your question.
Okay. You did. Okay. And it takes us into an interesting place when you talk about the 60-year-old house.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a lot of 60-year-old houses around still?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Not as many, because that's they're not as so for instance, everyone's a little different.
Sure.
When I did, and it's not restaurants, but when I did Planet Fitness, they didn't have as much technology, and it wasn't quite as antiquated.
Right.
And so I literally used the same blueprint that I used at Sonic for Planet Fitness. They have websites, they have mobile data, customer data, all of the back end stuff.
Was it siloed?
Business model. It was siloed.
Okay.
But I didn't have to convert all of the locations like I did, right? And so that's different. Restaurants, when a couple of other restaurants were known to have a lot of antiquated technology. It's less so now. I'd say in the last 10 years, at least, much of the infrastructure, not much, but let's say at least 50% is already upgraded. So you don't have as much of that anymore, but there's still some of that.
How important is the data infrastructure of a restaurant to maintain business continuity, flow? If the POS goes down, you might have that problem, right?
As I said earlier, technology is critical to the growth and the operations of the business. Underneath it, it's all based on data. So I'll say this: how it's as important to the business as oxygen is to you and me. It is the oxygen of the business, because none of the technology means anything without the data. All technology, no matter what it is, whether it's a computer, a laptop, a phone. No matter what it is, the database, they're all instruments of data.
Right.
So data is the fuel that underpins all technology. So it's the oxygen that without it, there is no technology.
Well, there's almost every restaurant's a data farm at this point. You have all these IoT devices throughout, whether it's the temperature control on the holding tables, the refrigerator, the POS data feed, the ordering.
And you have to, also, if you recall what I shared, there were two things that I kind of focused on. How do I drive top line growth, bottom line sales with technology and data, and as part of that, I'm looking at how do I take friction out of the customer experience. How do I take friction out of the operations? Right. What I find many restaurant brands and companies doing is they chase technology. So all the things you just described, that very often it adds friction. It doesn't right now, and so we're pulling that back, right? The data is no good if you have all these touch points if it's impeding the operational efficiency. Right. And so and here one example, particularly with AI, everyone is now wanting to use AI, automated customer service. Sure. Do you like that? If you just want to talk to a person, that you get this automated agent on your side? If I'm expecting a transactional drive-through experience, maybe I just want to get in, get out. Right. But
often when you go to a restaurant, it might be the only person you talk to that day.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think so. I don't know.
And even in anything,
yeah.
it's not even beyond restaurants. I had a problem with my airline ticket.
Oh.
I call up 800, right?
Oh, I scream operator until the thing comes on.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
How much do you think they spent on all of that?
Oh, millions.
And
millions.
they think they are.
Right.
So they're saving labor.
Right.
Right. But what they're doing is they're really frustrating the customer.
They're leaving the customer at arm's length. They're frustrating them, right?
Correct.
And they. Go ahead.
So let me give you another example about you cannot cut your way to prosperity, and technology, while it will automate, automation is good.
No.
Up until and you do not want to compromise the value proposition or the customer experience.
Exactly.
So here's a great example. I was brought into another brand about 6 years ago. The CEO was frustrated that they were spending all sorts of money on technology and not seeing a payback. So he said, Craig, can you come in and take a look at how we're leveraging technology in our costs in any way to drive efficiencies in our costs?
Sure.
And so I looked, and they were antiquated, and they were struggling. So they were looking at ways to save.
Right.
Got it. And there was one area that I identified that was a real challenge. About a year earlier, they had outsourced their help desk, and overseas.
Okay.
Which I've done that.
Sure.
But they outsourced the help desk completely. Now those restaurants, they weren't standardized, so restaurant 300 maybe a little different configuration than 400. The help desk that they outsourced, that essentially went away. All that institutional knowledge went away after 15, 20 years of knowing those
and the scripts that those people had, they
and
also
they
didn't cover it. Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
So what I found was that the service times to resolve issues was 20 to 30x time. In some cases, they even had to close down a restaurant or two for an hour. And so they ended up saving about almost $1 million by outsourcing.
How much they lose in guest dissatisfaction.
In sales, it wasn't even guest dissatisfaction. It was operational disruption. And when I did the economics for them, I said, you saved $1 million here because at that time, outsource your help desk, right? Save your money there. The disruption to the business was up near 14 or 15 million.
That's not worth it.
No, and when they look, I said when they saw that,
eye opener, huh?
The whole point was that anything you do, you've got to understand, in particular technology, what's the impact to the customer experience and the value proposition of your brand, and what's the impact to the operational efficiency of your business, right? Those are the two metrics that will help steer you. And so that's another example where a lot of companies are just chasing technology. Some of it may be
for
fine.
technology's sake, right?
Well, it's not just technology's sake. They also realize that it's important.
Yeah.
But they sometimes get blinded by, we can save this, we can automate that, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't validate that before you really invest in it, I find a lot. I find a lot of negative economic impact. So very often, what I'm doing is educating the finance team. Is how to think about it economically, and how to make decisions. So going back to the original question, with all these calls, you need a leader inside. Now I was on the vendor side.
Yep.
I was on the corporate side.
Yep.
And I was on the consultant side. And so I knew how to manage vendors. I was a vendor. And so I would always tell companies, the leadership has to be inside. You augment with vendors. You never let a vendor hold you hostage.
Right.
And so you need the talent inside that could really help make those decisions. And very often, even when a vendor is trying to negotiate a contract, and it's going to be on my terms. I'm the customer, essentially.
Yep.
And it's sometimes a struggle. And here's another example with Sonic. When we went out to we did not have the talent to implement some of these things. Now, the one thing I wouldn't outsource is my leaders. I wouldn't outsource my architects who understood the existing, and I wouldn't outsource my project management.
They own the keys of the kingdom.
I outsource the capacity elsewhere.
Right.
But and I would tell my leaders, you never put the fate of the company and your job in a vendor's hands.
Well, they don't have a deep stake in the game, right? It's a transaction for them.
And so I don't even like calling them vendors. They have to be partners.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you have to manage the vendors that way. And again, it's like the tail wagging the dog type of thing.
Let's walk back really quick. Yeah. And I know you have to go. You spend a lot of time. I really appreciate it. But you described previously the patterns that you see, right? Yes. And the death of some giants. And it feels in patterns are common threads.
Yes.
What are the common threads?
The common threads are one, companies that lose sight of their customer. That's the one. The companies that don't keep their customer at the forefront of every decision. And the second piece is, and Jim Collins writes about this. He did the book Good to Great. He also did a book about how the mighty fall.
Yep.
And he talks about hubris. Having worked,
there's an arrogance there.
There's an arrogance. So in my opinion, there's a lot of reasons.
Sure.
The reason that we don't have Sears anymore is arrogance. They were the disruptor.
Too big to
80
fail.
years ago. They changed the way people would shop.
Yeah.
By a phone call. Right.
They had catalogs.
And the catalogs.
yeah.
And it put a lot of small people out of business.
Yeah.
They were disrupted. Right.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I'll tell you, two things that make a difference. So with Sears, and I've talked with them, right? Is they felt like they had so much loyalty with their brands, all their brands, the Ken Moore brands and the Craftsman brands, and at this time this was kind of again late '90s, early 2000s. And they just said, that's a niche. That's not a big part of our business.
Right.
That's not our customer. That's not our customer. Well, maybe it isn't now, but where is it going to be?
Right.
And so that it was arrogance, right? And so again, a lot of reasons, and then it was too late. Here's the opposite. Walmart.
Yeah.
I was working with Bank of America at the time. To really, Bank of America was the largest financial institution in the country. Walmart was the largest retailer.
Yep.
In the early 2000s, this is well documented, but it's what I studied, and we had the same vendor. The two largest data warehouse, big data companies was Walmart and Bank of America. So that's how I got to, part of what.
Because pre-AWS, Microsoft, Azure's, all that stuff. Yep.
So this is kind of the e-commerce. Now, in 01, 02, Walmart saw what was happening, or maybe it was a little earlier than that, but they were really struggling to see the value in it. And even, I think even after the .com, I may have this wrong, but they just said, you know what, Amazon, this is a niche, right? This is not big, and they abandoned the e-commerce. This would have been again early 2000s, right? And so, fine, okay. Yeah. So now you fast forward. By 2010, they realized this is no longer a niche, right?
It's undeniable.
But this is what leaders did. We made a mistake. We misread.
Right.
Well, at that time, right?
You don't dig in.
It may not have been a mistake.
Yeah.
But they realized this is where customers are going. Amazon really, proved that.
Yep.
And so, rather than trying to go build it, right, which would take them a long time.
Right.
They said, who's number 2? Let's go buy number 2 behind Amazon. And so they go and they buy number 2, and that becomes their channel. And they quickly start to catch up. And now, they said, okay, at our size and scale, now how do we differentiate? And so one thing, Amazon's starting to do it now, but they couldn't do it then. Hey, we could have people order, and Amazon, it takes a day, 2, 3 days to get to you, if not longer.
Yeah.
All right? We could have order, and if they want it, they could deliver to the house, or we have so many Walmarts, they could go pick it up at the local Walmart store. Boom.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where you saw them put up, a lot of these, little shopping cabinets and stuff, right?
Yeah, convenience.
And convenience, right?
Yeah.
Then the next thing they did, which I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, is where else, right? Where else can we do it in ways that Amazon can or others? Is groceries.
Wow.
So what do? They go out and they buy one of the biggest groceries, right? And now Walmart is the biggest grocer, right?
Wow.
And so where's the customer going? How do we leverage?
Yep.
How do we leverage? They never strayed from their core, their core competencies.
Go where the customers.
They adapted to it. They did not transform. They just adapted to it, and even
that's commercial Darwinism,
well,
right?
That's
survival is the most adaptable that survives.
Most adaptable.
Yes.
And even when they made a choice, they tried it, didn't work out, but then when they started to see where the customer was going, they quickly adapted back. Right? That's how leaders survive, right? When you do that, you're never going to always be right.
Right.
But you have to always be prepared to adapt. You have to be prepared to pivot.
Make educated bets too, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And where we take, they are still larger retail-wise than Amazon.
Wow.
Right?
Well, Craig, I know I have to wrap up because I know my battery in my camera is going to die soon, but I could talk to you all day about this stuff. This is absolutely fascinating. We might have a part 2 on this, guys.
Okay.
If you could give advice to companies that are struggling to say, listen, I want to make that bet, but I don't know how to sell it to my organization, or maybe I'm okay where I'm at.
Yeah.
They feel the pain, but they don't know what to do next. What would you say to them?
So one is you have to lay out a path for your leaders.
Yeah.
A path for where the company needs to go.
Yep.
Based on the customer.
Yep.
You need to lay out how you're going to get there, what's needed to get there,
yep.
And you're gonna lay out a business case for it. So that's number one. I do that within the first 60 to 90 days. The second thing is you have to build trust and confidence early on, and what you do is you pick a few early wins.
Yep. And
out of that roadmap, and the early wins doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to build confidence and trust from leadership that it could work.
Proof points we're on the right path.
Prove that you got to prove it. Is it driving sales and profit?
Not it's a vanity metric, or we're moving this thing along and dragging people with us.
Correct. So that's how you peel through everything and get really simple. Everyone wants to know where should we go, why should we go there, and how we should go there. And if there's anything that the things that I quickly strive to get buy-in is what is the value of my audience. So I'll look at what is the board. If the board has to approve it, the senior leadership team, the C-suite.
Yep.
I start by proving something on that, something that's important to them.
Right.
Right. And so
they're no longer ahead when they're going to keep pushing when they get that.
And then they're going to support. Now you have to keep delivering.
Yeah.
And so that's what but start with the customer. Prove that your assumptions are right. Improve it with sales and sales and profit metrics. And prove that quickly and relatively frequently early on, and then you start building confidence.
Beautiful. That's a great way to close. Well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to read your book, Bricks and Clicks.
Okay.
Right. And I'm going to do a review on it. And then afterwards, I'd love to invite you on once I'm educated fully on what you talk about there,
understood.
and have a little more intellectual conversation
that'd be
about it
great.
where I'm not shooting blind. Well, Craig, this has been genuinely an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Me too. So everybody, this has been Craig Miller, co-author of Bricks and Clicks. You can find this on Amazon, and I imagine Kindle versions, hard copies.
We have Kindle version, audio version, and Cliff and I, we're actually going to do a monthly podcast starting soon.
Oh, fantastic!
Kind of for the C-suite type of thing.
Beautiful.
But it's published through Forbes.
Okay.
Forbes Books, and Forbes will Forbes will do the podcast.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Craig.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
This has
Pleasure.
been a lightning conversation. We'll be back again with Craig after I do a little bit of reading, and excited to see what comes next. But for now, this is the ChatGTM podcast signing off with Craig Miller, the co-author of Bricks and Clicks.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys on the next one. And as always, random acts of kindness, sprinkle that stuff everywhere. You never know whose day you're going to make better.
100%.
You did that for me today, and so
great.
thank you for that.
Wonderful. Yep.
Take
Pleasure.
care, everybody. Bye.